Hello, and thank you for joining me. Today, Cooking with Tristan is coming to you from France. Ah, the French. They are humble, real engineering wizards, and they have wonderful automobiles. But the food? Well, the food could use some help. That's why I'm here. As an American, it's my duty to come to this land of culinary cluelessness to educate them not only on the joys of fried chicken, but also on the convenience of air fryer technology. So let's get into it. Okay, don't be mad, I'm just having some fun here. Truthfully, I have a lot of love for the French and their food. I've had the pleasure of visiting the country several times, and on the occasion where I'm in an actual house and not a hotel, I try to do some cooking. If you've watched my videos before, you know I love cooking on vacation, and this trip was no exception. On this visit, I was in our host kitchen when I noticed a new appliance on the countertop. It was an air fryer of all things. Somehow, this fad of an invention found its way to this house in the south of France. You see, the homeowner is Danish, and they have a beloved roast pork dish. The pork is butchered in such a way that the skin is left intact, and this becomes super crispy in the cooking process. Anyway, apparently these little machines are quite good at getting that skin crispy, and they eat it frequently enough to justify having one. But that's not what we're working on today. On this trip I made a lot of delicious things, which you can check out in a separate video if you like. But after seeing that I had this air fryer at my disposal, and after seeing so much fuss made over them on the internet, I must admit I had some morbid curiosity about how they actually perform. So I decided to put it to the test. And what better test for something that bills itself as a fryer than to make some fried chicken? It's something I definitely know how to do the old-fashioned way, and I knew there would be no shortage of guidance from the internet to help navigate any uncertainty doing it in this modern style. I consider myself perpetually on a quest to make the best fried chicken. By all accounts, it is a fool's errand. It is to push a boulder up the mountain daily, only to have it roll back down. It is a greasy beacon forever just over the horizon. But here in France, it is the perfect setting to remind ourselves that one must imagine Sisyphus happy. And they that make a lot of fried chicken get to eat a lot of fried chicken. And I'm an open-minded individual, so if this tool is some magical means of attaining fried chicken enlightenment, who am I to deny it? But for fried chicken, one must have chicken. And this is where I would like to take a moment to appreciate the quality of French chicken. Behold, a French chicken. This is not even a particularly fancy bird. This is the standard issue chicken at the grocery store in town. But just look at it. This was clearly a healthy bird. The skin is thick and still has that yellowish hue to it that you used to see on chickens in old Julia Child videos. It is not dripping wet in its packaging like a poultry water balloon, and it isn't ghost-colored. You can feel when handling it that the bones are sturdier than chicken bones I encounter back home, which often come fractured or do so without much force. I know it is unbecoming to disparage the fowls of my own country, but I only mean to say that I think my American countrymen deserve better birds, and that we can afford them. But I digress. We have here this nice French chicken. We are using whole chicken because we all know that bone-in chicken makes the best fried chicken, and I want to break that into 10 pieces. I just go about that in the usual manner. I typically start by taking the wing tips off, and then I take the wing off afterwards. Those wing tips will make their way into a fine chicken stock, don't you worry. Next, I take off the thigh and leg section. I cut just enough so that I can bend the leg out a bit, which exposes the joint and allows me to get at the so-called oyster more easily. Taking the knife through that joint frees the leg-thigh section from the carcass. Then splitting that leg from the thigh is very easy. Just slice where you see that thin white line near where the joint should be. Cut through it and it's as simple as that. Then we do the same thing for the leg section on the other side. Again, just taking care not to leave any of that thigh meat on the carcass. Then it's on to the breast, and we just stand that carcass up and cut down along the back from bottom to top. And then you'll have to do the shoulder joints, and these you have to wiggle the knife around a little bit to get at it, but just be patient and you eventually free the back from the breast. Again, the back is going to help make a nice chicken stock, don't worry. Now I want to split the breast in two, and so I put them skin side down on the cutting board and split them vertically using a little extra force here to break through the breastbone. And this is what I mean when I say healthy chicken. I can really feel this carcass putting up a little bit of resistance compared to other chickens I've cooked with before. So eventually the breasts are split, and then to keep the size and pieces a little more manageable and to make it go a little further, we split the chicken breast more or less in half, but maybe giving a little more to the flatter part of the breast. And now our chicken is butchered and ready for the next stage of the journey, and that is brining. When I make fried chicken, I have a hard time following any one recipe strictly. Part of the fun is following your heart. I do love a buttermilk brine, but I have also had success with non-dairy brines as well. When making this, I remembered a recipe from the ad hoc world of Thomas Keller that I enjoyed, and that was basically just a simple brine with herbs, onion, and lemon. So I thought I would combine the best of both worlds. So I sliced up an onion, sliced up a lemon. In the garden there was plenty of rosemary and sage, and at the end of the driveway there is even a peppercorn tree, so I had some fresh peppercorns available, such a treat to be able to use. So I got the water, salt, aromatics in a pot on the stove and essentially make a salty aromatic tea. Then I get that into a bowl to cool. Now for my dairy component. I don't really know if the French are into using buttermilk, and I don't like stressing over translating every single ingredient. So I chose this product, which based on my very limited understanding of the French language is some kind of fermented milk or yogurt. It tasted great, and I knew that the tanginess would be just as good as any buttermilk, so I poured a good amount into our brine. Then it was just a matter of getting our chicken pieces into that brine and letting them take in that goodness overnight. And the next day we have made it to the last stage of the journey, breading and frying, or in this case, air frying. So I get my dredge together. Again, with my limited command of the language, I got some regular flour, but I also managed to find some cornstarch as well, which I always love to put in my breading for crispiness. And I didn't want to buy 10 different jars of spices for this one occasion, so I opted for this blend which called itself a rotisserie spice mix. I figured that would be a perfect mix to cover most of what you want with spices in the dredge. A bit of heat, some paprika for color, that's all you really need. So that all goes into the bowl with just a bit of salt and gets whisked together. Then comes the task of actually breading the chicken. I really like to work the breading into the chicken to make sure we get a good coating. With all the chicken pieces breaded, it's starting to look pretty promising already. It's time for this countertop appliance's big moment. I searched online for the right temp and time for such a project. I loaded in the chicken and I let it rip. Checking in halfway, I gotta say, this isn't looking very good. I'm starting to worry, but I try to think my way through it. It seemed that the chicken, in this world absent of liquid fat, was struggling to saturate the breading. Luckily, I had my chicken stock cooking, and with that meant that I had some chicken fat which I had been skimming from the surface. I grabbed a pastry brush and got to work painting my chicken pieces before they finished cooking in hopes of getting a better exterior. And this guesswork appears to have paid off. After brushing with fat, the chicken is looking way more like fried chicken than it did before. I will say, to the trained eye, I think one can see something is off, but it looks a whole lot better than it did before. So when I load in the next batch of pieces, I start by brushing them with the chicken fat to get ahead of this issue, and this seems to pay off. By the end, I have chicken that resembles fried chicken, especially with that piece of parchment paper lining the bowl. It does look pretty inviting, and the people who ate it were pretty happy with it. But what is my professional cool guy verdict? I'm not trying to be a hater, but I'm just not really into this piece of equipment. For starters, it was frustrating to me that you have to do this workaround with coating the chicken pieces with the fat ahead of time. That's just another added step for something that is supposed to be much easier. Also, there was some real sticking issues at the bottom of the cooking tray, which maybe can be mitigated with cooking spray, but then you still have to clean all these odd-shaped parts that are covered in grease, whereas when you fry in a pot, you just have to clean the pot. And as far as the results, I wasn't particularly crazy about it. The crunch was okay, but it felt dense and cakey, not light and crispy. It's just not fried chicken, really. Truthfully, what it reminds me a lot of is shake and bake. This is a seasoned breading mix that Kraft Food Company came up with back in the day, where you would put chicken pieces in a bag with the mix, shake it up, and then bake it in the oven to make a sort of imitation fried chicken. Was it great? No, but it tasted about as good as this did, and you didn't need a new appliance taking up room on your countertop. Some people also like to point out that this is a much healthier alternative to deep frying, and sure, that makes a lot of sense, but I also feel like this is a very misguided approach to trying to eat healthier. I'm a chef, not a dietitian, but I don't think finding healthier ways to eat the same amount of fried food is the answer. I think it's probably better to just try and eat less fried things in general, so when you do want to enjoy something fried, just eat the real version instead of some mediocre substitute. Which is what I did when I got back from France. I got myself a bird, I seasoned it up, and I dropped it in that fine Dutch oven bath. It is a great meditative act to stand over the cooking pot of bubbling oil and watch as the chicken becomes progressively more delicious looking. And after the frying comes the great test of patience to wait while it cools. And finally, there comes the reward. Oof! Biting into a great piece of fried chicken, it's really easy to understand why the whole world loves it. It's transformative. Ask any chef and they will tell you that the breast is the most boring part of the chicken. Yet, in this capacity, a perfectly fried piece of chicken breast is just so good and juicy. I've been around the fine dining world for a while now, and I've had sous vide chicken, ballantine chicken, chicken à la presse, but honestly, they can't really stand up to a perfectly cooked piece of hot fried chicken. Luxury is not always complicated. And with that, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this overly worded reflection on the act of frying chicken and the things that go through my mind when I'm cooking it. If you liked what you saw, then please subscribe and of course hit that thumbs up button. There is great content in the collection, and great content in the future certainly, so stick around and enjoy it. Drop a comment if you have any questions or strong opinions about air fryers. I love a healthy debate more than I love healthy alternatives to fried chicken. And also let me know if you would like to see me do a video on making old-fashioned fried chicken. I want to bring the people what they want. That is what years in the hospitality industry has done to me. So, until next time, cheers.